Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Ay, still not understanding.
Hey everyone, happy Sunday, happy February, happy week before Valentine's if you celebrate. I thought that I was gonna have to finally buy Final Cut Pro because I never thought that I would live to see the day that TikTok got banned. Well, it was only for like one day, probably 1 or 2 days, but still. I mean, personally me, I never had a TikTok. I only probably had one for like a week and then I lost interest. So it didn't affect me at all. But people were going crazy. People thought they lost their livelihoods. They were going to have to go into selling crack. Like, it was just a bit much for me. I feel like certain people need to just touch grass. Touch some grass once in a while. It'll do you some good to get off the internet. But I am right now on my way to the grocery store to pick up some stuff for breakfast tomorrow morning. My boyfriend came over for a very nice sleepover and I enjoyed it very, very much. So I'm running to the grocery store now to get some stuff to make for us to eat for breakfast tomorrow before we head off to work. But I wanted to finish part 2 of my video that I made oh, and it snowed, by the way. It snowed yesterday. Very unexpected. I'm kind of tired of snow at this point, but I don't know how much snow we need in February, but it is what it is. So I'm having to watch my steps because I cannot afford to break this hip. I have no health insurance. None whatsoever. But I decided to take you guys with me for some errands because I wanted to finish part 2 of my video talking about learning to accept certain things in life, whether it's a loss or a gain, really. And a lot has happened since the last time we talked when it comes to acceptance, and we're gonna get into that and how I'm sort of learning how to balance everything out so that I am balanced out and I don't end up getting burnt out at the end of it all, if that makes sense. So let's get into it. And so the last time we talked was understanding acceptance and what does that mean to you, and how have I sort of incorporated that into my life. So to me, acceptance has always been, there are things that you can't control, there are things that are just simply out of your control. And okay, so how do we control the things that we can control? Or I should say, how do we learn to react to the things that are out of our control so that it doesn't end up stressing us out, but we learn to go with the flow and go with the changes of life. And that's something that I've always struggled to do as someone who is trying to always guess what my next 10 steps will be, try and figure out what will happen before I've even started, so I'm not blindsided. Just reached the grocery store, picking up some stuff for breakfast for me and my baby. Hey, me and my baby. For tomorrow morning before we head to work to slave away. Hey y'all, I am back home. I know that was I know I just transitioned from the grocery store aisle to back home, but there was just a lot that happened in between. Also, groceries are so damn expensive, and now I see why I don't really buy them anymore. You know that eggs are $13 now? They're selling eggs for $13 and $10. When I used to be able to get a whole dozen carton of eggs at C-Town, the supermarket near me, for only $5, $6, less than that. And now they're up to $13. Lord, I don't know what we're gonna do. I truly don't know what we're gonna do as people. We're gonna have to just start raising animals by ourselves, which I've actually always encouraged for a while. But it kind of shocked me, so I need to go home. But okay, back to what I was saying before, when it comes to like acceptance and stuff like that. So, like I was saying before, as a person who has not dealt well with accepting my whole life, like acceptance almost my whole life when it comes to like letting go of control. And also I've always just been a person who who felt like they needed to like receive closure or ask to know the why, as to why something happened, or why is that this person entered my life, like is there something else that I could have done to make them stay in my life, or whatever the case is, or to not let go. But sometimes you do need to let go, or maybe a person was just meant to be in your life for a certain amount of time, and then that's it. But you've grown along the way, you've evolved along the way, and you took whatever lesson that it is that you were supposed to from that. And so it's interesting that we're talking about, I'm doing my final video when it comes to acceptance now, is because I just got accepted into NYU. Yay! Round of applause. Once I learn to edit a lot better, we can start doing sound effects and stuff like a real YouTuber. But I have recently gotten accepted into NYU for a master's in social work program. I'm in the extended pathway, which means that like instead of me, so they have like different programs. You can do the 16-month pathway, you can do the 32-month pathway, or you can do the extended pathway. So there are honestly, I would say like I'm the only person in one of my classes so far this semester who's doing the extended pathway. Everyone else is just, I guess, going to try and cram all the classes into a year and some change to save up on tuition and stuff. But for me, I don't have that luxury of just being a full-time student again. That was done probably like around high school or something. Now I'm a big kid who has a job that, I need money to pay for the tuition, right? And so I can't necessarily afford to just go to school full-time. Not unless I want to end up taking out a loan at the end of all this for $50,000, $60,000, probably something even more. And then I'm just in debt for the rest of my life practically. And I just want to see if I can avoid that at all costs, It just seems very stressful on people. And so right now, like I said, because I'm doing the extended pathway, there's a class that I take on Monday. So I'm taking about 2 classes per semester. It's about 3 years that I'll be in this program for. So I'm hoping to graduate by 2029, the latest. But right now, how I have it sort of like settled out is I'm doing about 2 classes per semester. And then around like year 2 and year 3 is when I'll start taking like 4 classes a semester, plus electives and stuff like that. That's when I'll be doing my practice internship where, I'll be staying there at least like, I know I have to give up my weekend and like a lot of hours to get like the credits and stuff like that. That I know for sure. And so I haven't like picked a place for that yet, but I'm sure that one will be, picked for me, which I don't mind. I pretty much have adapted in almost any environment you can think of, whether it's helping at food banks or like helping at hospitals or helping when it comes to small businesses, when it comes to political issues. Like I've volunteered in almost every area you could think of, to be honest. And so anyway, going back to what I was saying, now I've been accepted into school at NYU, and this is something that I've wanted for a very, very long time. You don't need a bachelor's degree in psychology to do what I do. Like, I'm telling you from experience, you do not need a bachelor's degree in psychology to change diapers, basically. Change diapers and take kids to their therapy appointments. You don't need a bachelor's degree to do that. And I just want more for myself, I want more for myself. I would love some more money instead of the less than $18 an hour that I make now. And, my partner and I, we want to move in together and we want to own our own apartment. We want to have kids one day. It's a life that we want to live for ourselves that it will be hard to do on my salary, our salaries. So right now we're like we're trying to put ourselves in that position for us to be able to gain more access to things, in a sense. And so and it's interesting because the reason why I say that once you let go of control, that's when everything comes into effect. I feel like once I learned to let go of control when it comes to relationships, and whenever that came into my life, that's when it came in. But for now, I'm just going to focus on myself, especially after everything that I went through with my previous breakup. Once I let go of control when it came to that, that's when Brian, my current boyfriend, came into my life. Once I learned to let go of control when it comes to like school and work, and knowing that I want more out of life when it comes to a career, but knowing that this isn't necessarily the place where you find that, and hopefully I meet the right people one day, or I just give off the right energy for the universe to know that I want more. And I've been wanting more for a very long time, for about 2-3 years, you know. Once I learned to let go of control when it came to that and just do what I need to do and go home, that's when I got accepted into the School of Social Work. And it's interesting because when I had applied for school like years ago, like 2-3 years ago, and I was really organized when it came to like the applications and the deadlines and making sure that I pay like the $75 fees and stuff like that, because you know you have to pay to apply to college so that you can hopefully one day make more money, which I always found very hilarious. But I feel like when I was really organized when it came to that, and I ended up getting rejected, and I ended up getting rejected from like all 5-6 programs that I applied to because of my GPA. And I put so much passion into my essays, and none of that mattered. But this time now, taking almost a year, yes, I took almost a year to apply to like all of my social work programs. And that was honestly my fault. That was 100% my fault, and I take accountability for that. And I'll tell you why. Alright, y'all. Outside for the last time. I promise. I'm just gonna go get some food for myself, and then some ground beef to make some meatballs later. For when he comes for dinner later. I want him to have something in his stomach before we both go to bed. But the reason why I say that like it was my fault for like procrastinating for so long when it came to like doing like all the applications and stuff like that is because I would just come home from work like so exhausted. Like I feel like when you work a 9-to-5 job and it takes like so much out of you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's designed to make you not have the energy to focus on your own goals. And I would just be so tired when I came home, because granted I have to wake up at 5 in the morning for work, right? I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to be at work for 7, to leave the house at 7, to be there for 8 something. And so imagine you're doing all of that and then you don't get back home until probably 5-6 o'clock at night if you're lucky, and then I had to go through like 20 pages for applications for 5-6 different schools. I'm not saying that like this isn't what every person has to go through who wants like a higher education in some way, but for me, on top of like what I already do for my job, it was just a lot. And so that took about a year, and I kept having to like email like all the people who were kind enough to like send me a recommendation letter or help me with that, because these people, they've never even like hung out with me. These are like therapists who I went to speak to at my job to help me with like recommendation letters. These are therapists, these are like transportation directors, like these are people who like really didn't know me from like a hole in the wall And I just asked them to write me this recommendation letter, literally just based on their kindness, based on like what they've seen me, how they've seen me interact with the kids, especially with my student, me being in the paraprofessional field for the first time, and me just trying to like go through it all and really just trying to figure it all out for the first time. And it doesn't really matter like how many years you've been at a job or you think that you understand something. You're always learning something new about yourself, or like about the people around you, or even like your own kid that you work with and within the school system, And so these are people who really didn't know me, but I was just asking them to write me recommendation letters based on how above and beyond I really try and go when it comes to these kids. And me just trying to just block out the negativity and do what I need to do. Just do what I need to do. And so I made sure to email them and be like, hey, I'm almost done with the letters. Thank you very much for your patience. I just need you to like hit that link application link and just send it one more time, because I'm way past the deadline at this point for this semester, but I can do this in time for the next one. Like, and so that took about a whole year. And then I remember like everyone was just always asking me after that, like, when are you going back to school? When are you going back to school? Like, you're just working right now? When are you going back to school? Like, I feel like that was a question. Like, when are you going to be signed up for all the classes? And I feel like my therapist is asking me that. I felt like my grandma was always asking me that. It was just always like a bunch of different people. And granted, it does come from like good intentions of just, making sure that I'm never settling, and I always remember like what the goal is and what the plan is and stuff like that. But at the time, it can seem very overwhelming, especially when you're already dealing with so many things at once and you're already going through the process at your own pace. But now it seems like you're being rushed to do everything. And so I just left that alone for a bit. I would just always tell people it's in the works. It's in the works. I filled out the applications. I did all the recommendation letters. I uploaded all the transcripts and everything I needed to do. I filled out my resumes and the application essays. It's just waiting and seeing. And just trying to save up my money in the meantime. That's all I'm trying to do right now. Just take it one day at a time. And finally, I would say last month is when I finally got the email from NYU saying that they had made their decision. And I remember just being sort of like a calm nervous in a sense. Like the reality of everything didn't really hit me yet. And so I was just at work, just being normal and stuff like that. I was just like, okay, well, I had something to look forward to open when I get home. But then when I was like, I would say that like when I was on the train going home, that's when everything kind of like hit me full force. And that's when I sort of like, I would say, started experiencing like the panic attacks and stuff like that. And when my heart started racing. And I was like, oh snap, this is real. I'm really gonna find out if I got into this school or not. And I remember like showing my mom and everything, like the acceptance letter and the email and stuff and the scholarship. And she was like, oh my God, like I'm so proud of you. But like what now? Like what's the next steps when it comes to like school, and then how are you paying for tuition? Like does FAFSA cover all this? Does FAFSA even cover like a master's program? Like are you going to have to take off like days from work and stuff to be in class, which kind of like ends up being a negative in that it takes away money that needs to be going towards tuition, because it's about $11,000 a semester. And so that's a lot of money. That's definitely a lot of money that you have to try and find. Not every year, but $11,000 a year for school, please. $11,000 basically every half a year. That's a whole different thing. And like I said, I don't have rich parents that are offering to pay that for me out of pocket. And so it's one of those things where I have to just kind of figure this out on my own, in a sense. I mean, I know that I'm not alone, but in hindsight, it's something that you kind of have to figure out alone. And I think, to wrap it all up in a sense, sacrifices has also become a very important thing in my life now that I am going back to school officially now. Sacrifices when it comes to money and saving up as much as I can so that I can pay off this balance at a good rate and still be able to sign up for classes when I need to. Sacrifices when it comes to, I probably can't hang out with people as much as I used to be able to, because I have to go home and study and do notes and other things that are a lot more important now when it comes to, you know, when it comes to dates and stuff like that. And learning that, like, my relationship is not a distraction when it comes to all of this. So sometimes I can get overwhelmed. Like, even like my first day of online class, I got overwhelmed when it came to like figuring out like all the different like online systems and everything, and even just trying to figure out like where the building was that I was supposed to go to for like my first day of class, because I have one on campus and then I have one online on Tuesdays from like 6 to 8. And so it's just sacrifices and balancing when it comes to that I'm learning how to do for the first time. But the thing is, like, what I've had to learn along the way is you can't like ask for a lot on your plate, or to ask to grow, or to evolve, or to like want more for yourself, but then you get surprised at like how much you have to eat. You know, oh, it's a full moon. But it's one of those things where it's like I asked for this in a sense, and I knew that there are certain things that you're sort of like destined for in a sense, and that is on your life path that you're meant to do. And well, I do feel like everything is kind of like happening at once. I feel like also it couldn't have come at a better time, because this kind of like prepares me for the future, for when I'm like a wife one day to Brian and we have kids by then. And I'm also balancing being a mom and being a wife and being a home keeper and also having a job full time at that point. And so it's all stuff I'm learning along the way. But I know that I'm not alone. I know that everyone in my life truly loves me. I know the people in my life who truly do love me and who care for me and are really supportive of me and genuinely happy for me and keep me in check and keep me in balance when it comes to making sure that I'm enjoying myself, but I'm also working as hard as well. And I feel like I had 2 years. Or like a year and some change. I wouldn't say goof off, but I feel like I had a year and some change to like relax and not have to worry about all this stuff, and kind of like just go to work and go home and find time for my friends in between. But now we're an adult. We're 28 years old now, And I have goals for myself, and so does the world. And it's kind of time for me now to keep my end of the bargain. But that's all for now, people. Until next time. Never feel like your goals are too big. They are just right. But once you do get them, how do you handle it all? That's the real question. I hope you have an amazing day. Until next time. Peace and love. And like, I remember like coming home from work, and then I got to the basement. Remember coming home from work, and I got to the basement, and I checked my laptop, opened up my NYU account online, and I was just like, okay, take a deep breath. Whatever will be, will be. You faced rejection before, 5 times in a row. You can face it again. Whatever happens, you accept it. And we just move on from here on to the next step. And I just kept saying that a couple of times, and it did help me to like feel a little bit better, you know. And so when I finally opened the decision letter and it said, congratulations, China Lynch, you have been accepted into the extended pathway program for your master's in social work plus a scholarship. When I tell you that I literally almost flew upstairs and knocked down everything in my path to show my mom. Okay, that's honestly who I do it all for. My parents. Let's just show them that I really appreciate everything they've done for me, you know?